As America marks the day we declared independence from a king, Donald Trump appears to believe he has the power to nullify laws. That was the takeaway from the contents of letters just made public this week, in which Attorney General Pam Bondi told tech companies they could lawfully violate the statute that bans TikTok, a law Congress passed on a bipartisan basis and the Supreme Court unanimously upheld. According to the New York Times, Bondi wrote to companies like Apple and Google that Trump had decided shutting down TikTok would interfere with his constitutional duties. So the law banning the social media app must give way to his core presidential national security and foreign affairs powers. Joining me now, Christy Greenberg, former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst. Jason Johnson, still with us. Christy, help me put this in perspective, because I think it is easy to read the story and think it's just about the TikTok ban. In my estimation, it's not, because if you have an administration that doesn't feel like it has to enforce one law, what then is to stop them from saying the same about any other law?
Look, the Department of Justice has discretion about what priorities it has and what laws it is focused on enforcement. But that's one thing. It's quite another to actually go out of your way to let people know, let companies know, hey, we're not going to enforce this, so violate away. That's unheard of. That is not something that you would expect. If the president has an issue with the act, he should talk to Congress about it. The majority of Congress are Republicans. This is his party. If you don't agree with something that they've done, which has been upheld by the Supreme Court, which, by the way, was animated by a national security interest, if you don't agree with that, take it up with Congress. Don't just go telling private actors that they can willfully violate the law and you're not going to do anything about it. That sets, as you said, a very dangerous precedent here. And again, I just want to underscore, this is about national security. This ban was a conditional ban that is conditionally banning TikTok until there is a qualified divestiture that severs China's control. Essentially, China is collecting all of the information from U.S. citizens using TikTok: your age, your phone number, your location, your content of your private messages, the videos you use. And Congress found that that is a national security interest. The fact that they are giving this information to support China's intelligence and counterintelligence operations is problematic, and it needs to be stopped. If he was such a great deal maker, there was a 90-day period where Donald Trump was supposed to make a deal with China. And yet again, we see the deal is not being made. So he can make the deal with China, he can make a deal with Congress, but what he can't do and what he shouldn't do is what they've done, which is essentially tell private actors they can go ahead and violate the law without consequence.
Jason, let's just underline that piece that Christy just said there, which is, yes, DOJ does have discretion. The piece of this that becomes additionally eyebrow-raising is the fact that it would seem as though they almost want to take credit for it with these companies. Again, that is not surprising based on what we have seen from this administration, and yet we have to remind ourselves just how far from norms we are right now.
Yeah, this is crony capitalism. I mean, this is the president of Oprah saying, you get a pass, and you get a pass, and you get a pass. I mean, you know, if the president can basically, through the Department of Justice, which is now an arm of his sort of political campaigning, when it used to be supposedly an independent agency, if the president can basically go to whatever tech oligarchs that he wants to and say, you don't have to follow this law, you don't have to follow this law, you don't have to follow this law, then that's crony capitalism. And all it does is encourage other corporations and other industries to pay him more money, directly or indirectly, whether that's in the form of, you know, documentaries for his wife or donations to his businesses or his friends or everything else like that, in order to get these legal passes. The law means nothing anymore, right? The law means nothing anymore if the president will make sure that the Department of Justice doesn't enforce anything. That's the larger problem, the larger context in all of this, because it may start with TikTok, but it's also going to be environmental laws. We won't enforce these environmental laws about AI having a negative impact on the local environment if your company gives us money. We won't enforce these laws about environmental dumping if your company gives us money. We won't sue this particular outlet as long as you guys settle with us. That's what we're facing right now. It shocks me, honestly, Alicia, it shocks me how many business and corporate interests support this administration, knowing that they're the #1 people who are going to get bullied by them. But that's the country we're in right now.
I want to take a slight pivot, though I do think that there is connective tissue here, Christy, which is yesterday you had the Supreme Court giving Trump the green light to move ahead with plans to send 8 convicted criminals to South Sudan. You had Justice Sotomayor writing in her dissent, today's order clarifies only one thing. Other litigants must follow the rules, but the administration has the Supreme Court on speed dial. So here you have the TikTok ban, which the Supreme Court did uphold. They're just whistling right past that. And then in this case, you have what Sotomayor is saying, which is you have an administration, or rather a Supreme Court that is in lockstep with the administration. Do you agree, Christy, with her assessment here?
Those are very stark words from a Supreme Court justice to the rest of her fellow justices, to say that he has them on speed dial. They are in his pocket. She is laying it out plainly. And, it's hard not to see the point that she's making. It's hard not to agree with her when she says that, because, just taking a step back, what the Supreme Court is saying is, yes, you can deport these individuals who are not citizens to a third country. That, as I understood it, was the law prior to Trump, that was allowed. However, it is quite another thing to be sending individuals to war-torn countries where there are advisories in place by our own government saying, don't go to these countries. They're war-torn. There's conflict. If you actually, before we went on, I went and looked at the state advisory on the State Department's website. They said, if you go to the Sudan, don't count on the United States to help you in any way, because we can't. We can't guarantee your safety there. And if you go there, you probably should draft a will, because you could die. So this idea, and the dissenting justices said this, we are just blindly sending people to a country we know where they could be tortured and die. The United States is part of the Convention Against Torture. We at least are a part of an agreement saying we don't agree to send anyone, whether citizen, non-citizens, to countries where we believe they could be tortured. And the idea that, the Supreme Court justices are saying, well, this is something where they've told us, they promised they won't torture anyone. What good is that?
What good is that, indeed?
It's absurd.
Christy Greenberg, thank you. As always, Dr. Jason Johnson, thank you for spending most of the hour with us.